was one of the 3 of the 15 nominees by President-elect Trump's cabinet. You gave your support to all 3. Had you known of Brooke prior to this, or was this your first time meeting her?
Well, certainly I've known of Brooke for some time. She's been very involved in America First Policy Institute. She worked in the West Wing for President Trump. But Suzanne, just let me tell you, despite her being a Texas A&M Aggie, she's going to be an incredible Secretary of Agriculture. You know, I'm a K-State Wildcat guy, right? So listen, she blew me away. She's effervescent, incredible personality. Agriculture, rural America. She cares so much about them, as does President Trump. Will have a seat at the table. And I mean a strong, strong voice. It's interesting. We talked about a lot of things, but President Trump just a couple of days ago said his priorities are number 1, secure the border. Number 2, drive the cost of groceries down. Groceries and border. And I don't have to explain to Brooke that if you take away pesticide from American agriculture, it's going to be inflationary. I think your producers, people watch this show, understand that without me explaining it to them. But if you take away pesticides, it's going to drive up the cost of growing corn and wheat, all those types of things. And not to mention, I didn't have to explain to her that no-till farming requires those pesticides. So we're not starting from ground zero. She's going to do a great job. I don't have to explain to her why trade is important. I don't have to explain to her why these, tariff issues, why farmers are concerned today. She'll be a loud voice. And she just emphasized over and over, President Trump gets it. And every time I sit down with President Trump, the first thing he asks me is, how are your farmers doing?
Yeah. Well, Senator, there you go. I don't have to explain to her that you repeated her background. A generational farm family gives her a little bit more insight, you feel, to this position as Ag Secretary.
Absolutely. She lives and breathes this stuff. Her major was agriculture. She was president of the student body at Texas A&M. And again, we won't hold that against her. But, she's from rural America. She gets this. And again, I appreciate just the diversity of President Trump's nominees. She is one person that actually understands how Washington, D.C. works, having worked there in the West Wing with the president before. And I think she's a person that's going to stand up to RFK Jr. and some of the concerns agriculture has. And again, just to point out that some of these things, look, everyone wants America to be healthy again, but we also have to make groceries affordable as well. And we cannot have inflationary policies. American agriculture is embracing this precision agriculture. We're growing more with less. We're all in. American agriculture is all in to make America healthy again, but we also got to keep groceries affordable.
Absolutely. Well, Senator, I feel like we know where your main priorities stand. Of course, I wanted to talk to you because I know that one of your big passions, Farmers First Fuel Incentives Act, big priority for you. Frustrations right now without clear guidance on that 45Z tax credit. Where do you stand there, and how do you see this playing out?
Look, I think most importantly, when I sat down with President Trump a week before the election, I pointed out that foreign companies, foreign entities, foreign corporations, China specifically, are benefiting from these tax credits. So number 1 is we need just a general bill from Congress and an executive order saying only American companies can benefit from 45Z. It's so important. So many great things happening in agriculture. In Southwest Kansas, we're going to take corn stalk, turn it into a renewable jet fuel. We're going to inject the extra carbon as a byproduct down into our oil disposal wells. So the 45Z is so valuable. And again, I didn't have to tell Brooke yesterday that 50% of America's corn crop and soybeans end up in some type of renewable fuel. So we'll keep fighting for that. It may be a little bit uphill battle. We got to make sure that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to that IRA legislation. And we need to stand up and protect 45Z. And I know we're getting close. I should remind your listeners, email your senators and tell them to support Brooke Rollins' nomination, please. Whether you're in a blue state, purple state, red state, she deserves a great hearing. And if Americans, when they hear themselves, they know that she's going to be all in for American agriculture.
Absolutely.
And rural America.
More voices, of course, on the Hill for agriculture. It is something that we need. I know President of the Farm Bureau, Zippy Duvall, yesterday, we had gotten a quote from him saying that we have lost 141,000 farms in the last 5 years. Do you believe the farm and ag sector in the U.S. is facing a crisis?
But without doubt, I mean, we have a record drop in net farm income, and I think we know exactly why. It's the high interest rates. The average Kansas farm, $1 million operational loan, their interest rate went from 2% to 8 or 9%. So high input costs, along with that, energy is an inflation multiplier. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but the cost of diesel, nitrogen-based fertilizers, especially going up, and then getting our goods to market as well. So we are, and this is why we need a strong farm bill. We need a strong safety net, and this will be a huge priority. Reach out to, again, to your senator. Senator Amy Klobuchar, I think, will become the ranking member. Senator Bozeman is all in, the Republican chairman, starting in January as well. We need to get a strong farm bill across the finish line for such a day as this.
Absolutely, Senator. Thank you so much. Disaster aid package, before I let you go. Thoughts on that before the end of this year? What are farmers looking at?
Yeah, again, drought in most of the Midwest, certainly Kansas farmers just inundated with drought, just not last year, but for several years as well. It'll be a priority. We'll get some disaster aid across the finish line. It won't be as much as we'd like it to be, but I think this is one reason I keep talking about the incoming president and his team is we need to prioritize our dollars, and he's all in. Do we need to spend more money in Ukraine before we take care of our own disasters? So America first, let's take care of our own disasters, and no one has suffered more from disaster than American agriculture has the past several years.
Senator Marshall, as always, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us here on RFD TV. Always a pleasure.